Hey everyone, so today I want to do a long-term ownership review of my new age garage cabinets that I've had for almost 5 years now. So end of 2018, I started to really plan out my garage build, and I knew obviously I was going to have to get a really nice set of garage cabinets. After the painting, the trim, and the flooring was done, next we're going to come the cabinets, because you really don't want to do any of that stuff afterwards because you don't want to have to drag the cabinets back out. So once everything was set up in here, the cabinets got ordered in the beginning of 2019 now. I did a lot of research before I ended up ordering cabinets. I looked at everything from your really basic, big box store kind of flimsy cabinets all the way to your super high-end stuff, the really nice aluminum, super expensive stuff. I didn't want to go with the really basic stuff that you see at the stores. It's kind of flimsy, the weight capacities aren't the best, and it just kind of feels cheap overall. So I wanted something of better quality than that. So I started looking at the super, ultra, really nice high-end stuff, some of it that is even aluminum. Absolutely beautiful, fantastic, beautiful construction, all nice features. The problem is it's very expensive. You can easily get into 5 figures buying that stuff, and it is easily 4 to 5 times more than something like this is going to cost. And I don't really see 4 to 5 times the value there. While it is beautiful, it does have nice features. Having them made out of aluminum, I think, is kind of almost pointless, because once they're in place, you're never moving them again. It's a static object, so the weight is kind of irrelevant. And I don't really see 4 to 5 times the features in it. The design might be a little bit nicer, some of the features and some of the moving parts like the hinges and the bearings and the drawers, but I don't see that much of a value in going that high end. So I didn't want to spend that much money on it. So I started to look at some of the sort of mid-grade stuff, some of the more commercial stuff that wasn't super expensive. So I started looking at New Age because they were one of the really big companies that were doing garage cabinets at that time. So they do 2 main series for their garage series, the Bold and the Pro, which is what this is. The Bold is more residential. The main difference between Bold and Pro, the Bold series, they're not quite as deep. They're only about 18 inches deep as opposed to 24, which is what this is. They're not quite as tall. These are about 6 inches taller or so than the Bold's going to be. And the main difference is really going to be the gauge of steel they use. The Bold series uses a 24 gauge steel. This uses a thicker 18 gauge steel. So it's about twice as thick. So obviously because of that, you have a much higher weight rating. And I wanted to have a good weight rating because I knew as time went on, I was going to start loading these things up with weight, and I didn't want them to kind of get tweaked over time and have them move and come out of adjustment. So I was like, it's not that much more to go to the Pro series, which is considered more of a commercial grade. So I started looking at these things. So lots of options available, different colors, different kits, different configurations available. So with anything else, you want to take your time. Lots of measurements in here because I wanted to maximize the space, because one thing that is very true with garage cabinets, it's true with a lot of other things, is it is much more cost effective to order a big set than to start ordering individual pieces. So you really want to find out how much space you have and what you want and try to order a big kit. It would be even a lot cheaper if you wanted to do different setups in different parts of your house. Maybe you wanted to do a setup in the garage, maybe a setup in the basement. It's a lot cheaper to order one massive set and split them up than to order 2 separate sets or order them one by one. So you want to take your time, take your measurements like I did, make sure everything fits the way you're going to want it to fit. Take your time and think about it. Lots of measurements before you pull the trigger and commit to something, because you don't want to, you really can't, it would be very difficult to kind of exchange or send back. So you really want to make sure you're getting the right color, configuration set up before you go ahead and order it. So that's what I did. Lots of measuring and checking and making sure it was really going to work with this, because this is the pretty common layout, having cabinets, tall cabinets on the end and having a center section here with basically a workbench top with your cabinets, your upper cabinets above it. So this is a pretty common layout, but I just want to make sure I got as much as I could with the available space that I had. So I went ahead and ordered them early 2019. They got delivered fairly quickly. I think I had to wait like 4 to 6 weeks, I want to say, for them. So probably average freight time, I don't know if it's gotten a little bit longer because of everything that's gone on since then, but it wasn't too bad of a freight time. When they showed up, one of the tall locker cabinets came in damaged. Now, I don't blame the manufacturer. I don't blame any manufacturer when these garage cabinets come in damaged. That is a very common theme you're going to hear on car forums, garage forums, that they come in damaged, because unfortunately these get shipped through freight. They're not going to come UPS. They're not going to come by FedEx. They're too big and too heavy to come. So they're going to come either on a box truck or possibly a small tractor trailer. So whether they're being shipped from the factory to the storage facility or from the storage facility to your location, they get beat up in freight a little bit. So I don't blame any of the companies that make these things. So you really want to be very thorough when you get these things off the truck to check them. They come with a sticker on them that says, check everything. If they have damage on them, call New Age customer service immediately so that you can report to them, and then they can document that you got it damaged so they can take appropriate corrective action for that. So like I said, the one came in damaged. Again, I don't blame them for that. The freight companies aren't gentle with this stuff. So, and they came up with a very simple solution. They just replaced the cabinet for me. So I was very happy, very quick, very receptive. I had to show them a couple of pictures. Pretty easy process, and they were very, very helpful with that. So they got the new one sent out to me immediately. I think I got it within like a week or two. They had the new one come in. So that was really the only run-in that I had with their customer service. And then one or two of the cabinets had some small scratches on it. They sent me some touch-up paint for that. Quick and easy, no questions asked. That was simple enough. And I keep that for touching up any damage that I do owning these cabinets. So the big time investment with these is that initial setup. You can do it with one person. Two people makes the job a lot easier, because you should prepare yourself to spend the better part of an entire weekend doing this, because it might not seem like a big project, but from start to finish, it consumes a lot of time. You're gonna have to get them off the truck, take them off the pallet, unwrap them. You may notice when you get them, you might think you're missing some because not a lot of boxes come. The small cabinets go inside the big cabinet, so you're gonna be like, where's the rest of the boxes? They're inside. They tuck them in to save space during shipping. So once you get everything out, check for damage, report any damage if that applies to you, get everything cleaned up, set up, bolted together in the spot you want it to go. That's not too bad. Where you really invest a lot of time is perfecting and getting everything exactly how you want it. That eats up a ton of time, because it's probably going in a garage or someplace with concrete floors, and concrete floors are never perfect. There's always little imperfections, high and low spots in concrete floors. So you're gonna spend a ton of time. If you want them to be absolutely perfect, you're gonna spend a ton of time leveling and tweaking the feet and getting them exactly where you want. So that's why two people makes it easy, at least until you get it into the spot you want. Setup overall wasn't too bad. You're really just putting the feet on if you're gonna floor mount it, or you might have to do the wall mounts on the wall. If you're gonna wall mount it, it comes set up for both. So the actual assembly wasn't too bad. They're almost completely assembled out of the box. So each cabinet is bolted to the one next to it. So the whole system essentially is bolted together. So I basically got everything set, laid out easily the way I want it, went through, bolted every cabinet together. Once I kind of had it up against the wall, I made sure I left enough room under the feet so I can get a wrench in there to turn it so I could level everything out. When I initially got it set up like this, I wanted to move the whole thing over again. So to get it over, I basically just used a bottle jack, and I used pieces of wood as spacers, and I literally slid the whole assembly over a little bit because I was a little too far to the right. So I slid it all the way over to the left, so I would have no wasted space between the steps and the garbage pail I have over there. Once I got it in the exact spot I wanted to, that's when I had to really invest a lot of time in perfecting, getting everything straight and level so everything would sit the way that I wanted it to. So first thing I did was I started to go through and get the feet even on everything, because you're going to start finding out real fast how uneven your floor is. So you're going to go through, and this eats up hours and hours. You go through with your level, put it on top of everything, side to side, front to back, and it's a lot of trial and error. There's really no other way to do it than a ton of trial and error, and you're just going to spend a few hours at least doing that. So that's going to eat up a lot of the time when you're doing that. And once you get it where you want, you get everything leveled, you get everything set. Then I put a bottle jack in the middle here, because since everything's bolted together, as I start putting weight in these upper cabinets, it's going to probably pull down on the outer cabinets and start to bow a little bit in the middle. So bottle jack in the middle, wood as spacers, jacked it up just enough through the level on the top. Once it was perfect, one lag bolt in each of the upper cabinets. So now they're all bolted together, and they have 3 bolts holding it to the wall. I don't think you have to put lag bolts to hold it in the wall if you don't want to. Once you get these things weighed down, there's so much weight in these things, I don't know if you could even really pull them over, but as a safety margin and just for the heck of it, and just to make sure these upper cabinets stay perfectly level, threw a lag bolt in each, real simple, real easy. So that was the sort of initial setup. I did a video on that talking about the initial setup on it. And then after that, it's just, you're gonna constantly be reconfiguring these things, moving things around, what fits the best where, what goes in certain spots, and then you'll end up setting one cabinet up, you move stuff over there. It's sort of a never-ending process with these things once you start to load them up. And that's why I wanted that higher weight capacity of this Pro Series, because I knew As time went on, I started putting fluids and oils and tools and cleaning supplies and vacuums and extractors and tons of stuff in these things. They're going to get weighed down. I was worried, is it going to start knocking the things out of place over time? How is that going to go? So I also did another video about when I had them for about a year, year and a half of like recommendations, tweaks for that. I'll put that up above. It was just, like I said, a lot of little tweaking things like that. I just had to sand down some of the shims for the guide rods for the locks. I don't lock these things, but they kind of catch a little bit. That's just another little tip I had in my video for the initial setup. But now I've had these for nearly 5 years. How have they held up over the term? Overall, very, very well. I am very happy with these things. I really have no complaints with these cabinets. They have done very well. After that, I had to invest that long weekend into getting them perfect and straight and everything set up. Everything's been good because like I said, I loaded these things up with a ton of weight. I have not had to readjust any of the doors. None of the frames had moved on me at all. All the drawers still pull out really nice. I'll usually put a little bit of lube on the ball bearings of the drawers for the tool chest about once a year or so, just to keep it nice and fresh and have it go in and out well. But I haven't really had to invest anything as far as time into really tweaking or fixing or adjusting. And it's done very well as it is. And I wanted to go with the biggest setup possible because I knew I was going to load these things up with stuff, and I really have. I put quite a bit of stuff in these things. This one's my detailing cabinet. Put a ton of stuff in this thing. So this thing, I mean, I put all the fluids and tons of stuff in here, various vacuums and extractors on the bottom, and this stuff starts to really weigh down over time. My tool cabinet's probably the heaviest. They still work really well. Like some of this, I have all impact stuff in here, short and deep impact sets, SAE and metric, impact drivers, all kinds of tools. And you can feel when you close that, it's got a lot of weight to that thing. And these have stayed perfect. I haven't had the drawers out of adjustment. I got to adjust it again. They've been good. That's why I like going with a little bit of a heavier duty commercial series like this. It wasn't that much more money, and it's done very well. And another thing that's done pretty well is the paint. This paint has held up very well on this thing. Despite this garage seeming really clean, it gets dirty, and I do some messy stuff in here sometimes. And I bumped into these things a ton of times, and stuff's fallen up against them. I've dropped things on them, and they resist scuffs and damage pretty darn well, the paint. The only time I really have scratched them is if something like I hit it with a screwdriver or some sort of hard metal to metal contact, because it's if you get something like a stab it with a screwdriver or something direct metal, it's gonna be hard to resist a scratch. But I just used that little bit of touch-up paint that they gave me, and I fixed that. So the paint has held up very well. As had this bamboo top. They had two options for the bamboo top, or for the top rather, stainless steel and the bamboo. I like the bamboo better because I think it hides damage better. Stainless steel looks really nice, but being one flat, shiny piece of metal, you get one scratch in that thing and you're gonna see from a mile away. With this, there's tons of little dings and dents in this thing, and it's held up pretty well. If you really look, you can kind of see them, but I just wipe this down with some degreaser once in a while just to keep it clean, and it holds up very well. It resists a lot of really big dents, and there are a lot of little small ones here and there, but it's held up very well overall. So everything still feels really smooth. Everything still feels the way it did the day that I got everything tweaked and adjusted the way I wanted it to. So lots of weight in these things. This cabinet's full of oil. There's gallons and gallons and gallons of motor oil in here. Hydraulic units for my quick jacks, floor jacks, and all kinds of stuff in here. And it's held up very well. I mean, this is a static object. It doesn't move, so it's not really going to get the wear and tear that something that would move would, but it's proven that they can handle the weight without the frames coming out of adjustment, without the doors coming out of adjustment, without the drawers coming out of adjustment, or anything needing to be tweaked. And it's been very, very durable. And I'm very happy with this. Like I said, the paint's held up really well, and I would definitely get this again if I was going to do something in the basement, if I was going to do another garage, but I'd get this again. I think this is a good middle ground where you're buying something better than the basic stuff, but you're not going into 5 figures for something super expensive like aluminum. Because another thing I didn't like about aluminum is you lose the magnetic aspect of it. I have tons of magnetic stuff on this. On the one end, I got gloves and degreaser wipes and paper towels. On the other end, I got about 100 lights hanging off the side on the other side. And inside some of the cabinets. So it's nice having, that's another nice thing about using steel as well. You don't lose the magnetic feature that you lose on aluminum. And this is not that bad. The initial cost, I think at the time 5 years ago, was I think $2,000 for this initial set. And then after I got this, two things I added. I added this locker cabinet to the end because I had enough room, not enough room for one of these big ones, but just enough for, I think they call this a locker cabinet. They advertise this as kind of for hanging like clothes in here or any sort of work dressings, but I just have some extra stuff in here, various holders for nuts and bolts and a couple of automotive tools, brake bleeder kits and screws and a heat gun and diagnostic tools and waste oil container. And then magnetic, I got my thread checker on there. So I added that, and also another accessory I added that they have was an under cabinet lighting, real simple. I think you can do up to 4. They're all wired into each other off of a single switch. So those times I'm sitting here and I'm working on something and I need a little bit extra light, it's always there. So this was not an expensive accessory to get from them, works well. It's magnetic, single switch, just simple, basic under cabinet lights. That's worked well, never had an issue with it. So, and since then, obviously prices have gone up. These guys have gotten a lot more expensive, like everything else as time has gone up. But I think it's still a relatively affordable series of cabinets that is good for your average residential, or even probably up to some shop use for something like this. And since then, I think they've done quite a bit of updates. I was actually on the New Age website the other day. Still have tons of different configurations available depending on what you want to do. They have even more colors available than they used to have, and they've expanded quite a bit. They have not just the garage cabinets that they used to do primarily. They have workbenches and slat walls and lighting, and they do flooring and stuff for like backyard stuff, like patio setups. They do kitchen stuff. They do a ton of stuff. They're a huge company now that offer a lot of stuff. And if there's all their other stuff is the same quality that this stuff is, I would definitely consider that. There's a possibility I might do some sort of a workbench setup in the basement for when I need a lot of space to spread out. So I'm probably going to look into that for my basement as well, because I have no complaints. I think the value for $1 for these things, really, really good. You can the average person, I think, can justify spending a little extra money for this Pro Series and getting into more commercial grade with thicker metals than somebody can with a lot of the super high-end ones, especially the aluminum ones. Beautiful, but it's a lot of money for something like that. And this holds up just as well, I think. I think it's like I said, it's a static thing that doesn't move, and once you get it adjusted to where you want it, it's held up perfectly fine. I've never had to come in here and do any sort of maintenance other than maybe making sure that the drawers are real nice, making sure they roll smooth, which they always do, and they work really nice, and that's it. So I hope you've enjoyed the review of my New Age cabinets after having them for 5 years. Thanks for watching.